Comedians from the World Series of Comedy Part 10. That's what's coming up on The Art of Bombing, episode 177.
My friend Dan, he's got a podcast, 'cause all comics need a podcast, and nobody had a podcast called The Art of Bombing. So Dan went out and bought a tape deck. Who knows why he bought a tape deck? Podcasts don't get played on tape decks, but Dan is from the 80s. So hey there, all you funny jerks, come talk to Dan about your work. Tell him all about your worst times. It's The Art of Bombing.
Welcome to a brand new episode of The Art of Bombing. Dan Bublich Jr. here with you again as we continue releasing episodes from the World Series of Comedy. Even though that ended on Saturday, I still had a handful of episodes to release, and I'm continuing to release them, to plow through them. We're almost to the end, but they were great conversations. Today's conversation was great. Before I get into that, real quick, I do want to apologize. I sound very nasally. I'm having some allergy issues, some sinus issues. I think from the weather changing, from being in Las Vegas, the altitude changing, flying, all that has affected my sinuses, and I'm very nasally right now. So I do apologize for that. Now, today, I was joined on the show. My guest is Yoshihara. She's a fantastic comedian based out of Los Angeles, California. And we had a great conversation. And I do have to warn you, we got deep talking about some social issues. We got heavy talking about racism and discrimination. And she did email me after the fact and kind of had some thoughts about what we talked about. And she didn't feel like she necessarily explained herself very well and was wondering if I could do some editing. We talked and we agreed that I'm not going to edit out the conversation because it was a very good conversation, but instead I'm giving you this disclaimer and I'm going to read her email as to what she said. So this is part of the disclaimer. So this goes, quote, "I was thinking I didn't explain well when I talked about poor white people and immigrants should be allies. The section, we both speak bad English and stuff. Could you cut it out? If it's too much work, no worries. I didn't mean to talk down to them. I really wanted to say was privileged white people and call them trash and not helping them. They're still poor. They're hanging on to white power. Poor whites, minorities, and immigrants should be allies, but I felt like I didn't explain it well." Unquote. So when you get to that section, keep in mind I didn't finish like she explained it well, and we got this disclaimer now. But it was a very good conversation, very meaningful, very deep, and it was a conversation we need to have. We need to have more of these kinds of conversation because discrimination and racism is it's out there, and we can't deny it. And the only way that those issues will improve is if we have these conversations and we talk and listen. And especially as white people, the listening is very important. It's not necessarily our place to talk, but instead to listen and have these conversations. So keep that in mind. Enjoy this episode because it's going to be great. So real quick, if you haven't, leave that 5-star rating. Leave a nice review, subscribe, go to theartofbombingpod.com for everything else. Now here is my conversation with Yoshihara. Enjoy. That's an interesting name. I.
Yeah.
That's that. I bet you that has to be a little confusing.
Yeah.
Like with, granted, it's a little bit different spelling, but when you're talking, using like pronouns and possessives and stuff, people are like, "What? What?"
Always get confused. People are like, "What? Who did it?" Like, I did. No, I did it. No, you did it. Yeah.
It's almost like a who's on first, like Abbott and Costello thing going on. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. And you're based in Los Angeles now, is that right?
Yeah.
But you kind of lived here because I saw it on your thing. You put Las Vegas.
Yeah, because I used to live. I went to UNLV. Mm-hmm. And party school. Back then, a long time ago when I went to there, this is not UNLV wasn't that fancy. I heard it right now. UNLV is very fancy and more expensive and stuff. But back then, it was like one of the cheapest public schools. Yeah.
Okay. And now, how long have you been in Los Angeles then?
Los Angeles is about, I moved there 2006. So 14 years.
Oh, wow. So quite a while then. How do you like living in L.A.?
I like it. I love it, LA. It's like people like hate or love LA, I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm on the H side.
Yeah.
It's like one of these places to me. It's like, it's a cool city to go visit, spend a little bit of time in there, but I don't think I could live there. It's too much.
It's not because entertainment thing that I want to do, then I don't think I moved there. But what I like about LA is very, very politically correct. So it's easy for minorities to live there because I lived in Texas, Reno, Nevada, and Vegas. Vegas wasn't that bad. I liked the Vegas.
Yeah. I can see Vegas being a little more, because you got so many different people coming in.
Come in and go, come and go.
A little more progressive in a city like that depends on, all cultures, because everybody can be a tourist.
Yeah.
I could really see where that you'd lose a lot of business and stuff with that.
So I think the community is not as strong as other places, I think. So people always come in and go. So, yeah. But LA is like least, I was never told to go back to your country or, in LA. But other places I've been, So any other places I've been.
Have you seen like more resistance this last year since with like coronavirus and our terrible president running his mouth constantly? Has that
feel the intense, but still LA is a Democrat, so people are more
more realistic with it.
Yeah. And also
they have brains and everything, Tony. They can think for themselves. They're not just listening to the garbage that the cult leader's telling them.
No.
That's good.
Or maybe they're hiding. I don't know, but they don't really say it to my face. And and also there are so many like genuinely nice people there too. Like really like they try to understand more people of color, their culture, our culture, and stuff. Like it's really nice people there. So
Well, that's a good reason. Yeah. That's a good reason to like it.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I like visiting it, but for me, I think it was a lot of like just a lot of the people that I interacted with, and not just LA, I guess, but it was Southern California in general, because I lived in San Diego, and it just seemed like everybody was so fake. They were always putting on an act.
Yeah.
Trying to be something that they actually weren't,
Yeah.
So it was always like a facade.
I agree.
I'm this. Well, when reality is you're trying to be that, but you're not that at all. You're whatever else. So just, be. And I come from the Midwest where, everybody's real and pretty honest and, pretty open, sometimes too open, obviously. Where I come from, too open. Could probably use a little reservation on some of the things they say out loud, but for the most part, most people have good values and, we're real.
Yeah.
And so when I came out there, I came with that mindset, and it's like, oh, this is just, everybody's fake.
I know.
I don't like it.
Because I'm from Japan, so originally from Japan, and Asian people are more like no filter. I also joked about like Asian people in Asia, we have like Asian Asperger's. Because we have no filter. Just we says it, and my mom is like, "Oh, you're such an ugly kid," My mom used to say that to me, but she thought it was like funny and more like affectionate.
Trying to be more playful.
Yeah, playful, and in Asia, it's more like being affectionate to calling your kid fat or ugly. I know it's hard to understand, but
Oh, I know people like that here too, where that's you can't get too emotional, so you show your affection by. It's almost like what they call negging or whatever. Guys like say something mean to a girl to try to get him to like him or whatever, vice versa. I never understood that, but whatever. So then you said you grew up in Japan. When did you come over to America then?
when I was 20, almost 20, 19, and I had my 20th birthday in Texas.
Okay, so was college and education the purpose for coming
Yes.
over?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, I didn't speak much English at all. So
How was that trying to, as an adult, trying to learn English because they say that the older you get, the harder any language, not just English, but any language, second language you try to learn is a little harder.
It is really hard because I've been in the United States like half of my life, but still I have accent and talk funny. It's something that I never really perfect. Yeah, and also I don't speak Japanese as often as I used to, so I'm losing my first language.
Oh, so you get rusty with
Rusty,
that.
yeah. And then when I'm talking to my mom on the phone, I was like, I'm speaking in Japanese, but my mom is like, what are you talking about? And I don't understand what you're trying to say. And yeah, it's sad.
Yeah. How often do you go home then? Is that because I wonder, since you've been doing comedy, have you ever did comedy in Japanese?
No.
Like in a second language?
I
or
actually,
your first language, I mean?
yeah, I actually did it, comedy in Japanese the first time this year.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
How was that for you?
It was interesting. It was fun, but it's like, but our sense of humor are different. Also, like rhythm and are different.
Yeah.
So I have to I wrote the joke in English and translate to Japanese, and I have to change the delivery too. Yeah. So it was a little process.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
How did that go?
It was fun. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But that's so weird because I used to think in Japanese and then translate it to English, and now I have to do
the opposite.
opposite.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I always think that's interesting with other cultures, and other places across the world. How their different sense of humor because it does vary.
Yeah.
Things that we might find really funny over here isn't going to necessarily be funny in another country.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like in Mexico, I have a lot of Spanish speaking comedian friends, and they do comedy in Spanish, but they've also do comedy in different places in Mexico, and they always say that a lot of their most famous comedians from Mexico are more cartoony, wearing, kind of costumey and being real zany and silly, that kind of thing. And so it's a lot different over here where that kind of thing, I mean, you get those people within comedy, but it's not, not as often necessarily.
I feel American sense of humor is more like reference, a lot of references, American culture, and it's it took me for a while to understand the humor because I didn't grow up here, so all the references that I don't know, like old TV shows or famous people, and then I started learning also culture, and then I started learning that. Actually, I watched Friends a lot. That's how I learned American culture.
So cliche.
I know, but that was American culture for me.
That is so cliche. But
Friends sleep each other. What? They're friends, right? What?
Are they friends or what? What's going on here? That seems like they're more than friends.
Yeah.
A lot more going on in this little friend circle. That's funny. No, I could see that though. I mean, that was a show that definitely had a lot of. It did a good job of really showing kind of pop culture, kind of the sense of America. Well, city life in America, rather than. I mean, that show has no bearing as far as what it would be like to live in the Midwest. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
uh-huh.
But like in a big city,
City.
yeah, you can definitely see where that's kind of a good representation of probably what it's like versus
Yeah.
in a smaller rural area. But there's plenty of other shows that do that as well.
Yeah, and
know.
it's just so amazing because Japanese TV shows in Asia, those drama or TV shows are so different from American TV shows. Because American TV shows, like 13 episode or one season or whatever, but like first, it's so quick for us. Like two people fall in love with each other and sleep in the same episode, and in the end of the season they get divorced. You know, you know what I mean?
Like first episode they meet, they sleep together. Second episode they're married. Third they're having a kid, getting all ready for the final season finale.
Yeah, the divorce, like, oh, great. And in Asia, it takes like 10 to 12 episodes to two people to get together. It takes, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like all the obstacles, for them to not able to together. And then finally, end of the season, like, oh, God, thank God they're together.
And not go part different ways and just totally ruin the whole season for the people watching. They're like, why did I invest so much time in this? This is BS.
Yeah.
That's funny. So now that you did comedy in Japanese, well, first, did you do it over Zoom or did you do it? Was it a real
Zoom. Yeah, Zoom.
Zoom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Over the Zoom. Yeah.
Is that something you might try to do again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love to. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
sure. I'm
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Some of the Zoom shows have been kind of fun.
Fun.
Some, not so much, but
Yeah.
some have been.
It was Zoom show is tough in overall.
They
for
really
me.
are. It messes your timing. It's hard to really get the timing down because you don't know what the delay is going to be with not necessarily the crowd getting it, like understanding the joke, but rather hearing the joke. Like that's one thing I found where I'll tell a joke and I forget about that delay because of the internet, and then I'm like, oh well, that joke totally bombed.
Yeah.
And I go to start a new joke, and then suddenly they start laughing, and I was like, oh, that stupid delay.
Yeah. And then many times people don't they mute themselves.
So you can't hear
Can
them
you
laugh.
hear? Yeah. So
Yeah.
is it working? As a comedian, and then we
Yeah.
get insecure. Is it working? It was working on the live show, but
I'm
yeah.
just going to blame every bad Zoom show on technical difficulties. It's going to be like, my mic must not have been working.
Yeah.
Apparently their headphones weren't working or something.
Yeah.
They must have had their volume down, couldn't figure out how to get the audio to work on their Zoom. It's got to be them, not me.
Yeah.
I'm a pro. Everything I say is funny.
Yes. I know this joke works. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, this is a good time to transition to the bombing, art
Mm-hmm.
of bombing, and hear your story of a time where you felt like you had a bad set or bombed really bad.
And my first bombings, two big bombings that I had. First one was at the dive bar, and nobody's listening. And
Is that the name of it, the dive bar, or it was at a dive bar?
At a dive bar.
Okay.
Sorry. It's at a dive bar. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just was curious because I'm sure I can see a bar naming
Them
themselves
dive bar,
the
yeah.
dive bar. And then especially in America.
Could be. I don't even remember the name of the place. Bar. It's so ghetto, and But yeah, nobody was listening, and I couldn't even, couldn't get attention because they're busy getting drunk, but the first time, yeah, and nobody understood. One thing is because in minorities, we call it people call it, we do race jokes. I'm Asian, so I'm doing Asian jokes.
Because that's your what you were raised with. It's part of your upbringing, being Asian. It's
Yeah, because I think one of the reasons is because I didn't grow up here, so I don't know many, references. So so people also TV shows that I watch, I don't think American people can really relate. That's why that's why I think we do our own race stuff.
Oh, yeah. Talk about it.
So,
well, yeah. I mean, I could understand. I see that. I mean, you talk about what you know.
Yeah.
That's even what, like, most, like, with writing and stuff, they teach you to write what you know.
I know, yeah.
And, so
Yeah.
it's kind of the same thing. You're going to talk about what you know.
Yeah. So then I think there are mainly white people, so couldn't relate to my material, I feel. Yeah. So that's why I bombed so bad. And my second time, this is a huge one because I did it. I even got paid to do the gig. And then I bombed so bad.
Oh, geez.
Because that was a Chinese, some kind of reunion party. And me and 3 comics, we went up. I went up second. And they were already drunk.
Oh, jeez.
Even though we were Asian people, I couldn't get any of their attention. And then some people listening, and their kids also, so I couldn't do any dirty joke. And then, oh my God, and Chinese people were, also, I'm not Chinese, so it's like,
Is there a big, I've heard people kind of talk about that, but not really in depth. Is that like a thing, or is there like prejudice against other Asians?
Yes, and I've been in the United States for so long, so I don't really care when people mistake me, because Japanese people think I'm Chinese, and then they talk, and so Chinese people talk to me in Chinese.
Oh.
And then Japanese people talk to me in English. And when I talk them back in Japanese people were like, wow, your Japanese is really great.
Almost like Japanese is your second language.
Yeah. And like,
wow.
Because I'm Japanese, they get so surprised because and also, it is true we praise against each other, but Asian people live in the United States long enough, and we realize that we should be allies, not
yeah. Yeah, I totally can see that.
Yeah, so I have very good Chinese, Korean friends, Taiwanese friends. Yeah, but in Asia they don't really like each other because I think Japan was bad back during World War II. Yeah. I don't deny what we did. It was pretty bad. So I understand why they hate us.
Yeah. Well, the same could be said with some of our politicians in our country and the things that we've done too. I feel like that's there's a lot, like when it comes to politics and stuff, a lot of world leader countries have did some really terrible things.
Yeah.
People should be able to, you should own up and be like, that wasn't a good thing that we did. Like right now with everything going on in politics, I'm like, oh, this is not good. This is terrible that what's going on in American politics right now. And it's like, we're turning out to be like one of the worst countries as far as how we're presenting ourselves and how we like look at other people and other cultures. It's very, very bigoted and very prejudiced, and it's just like it's so gross.
Yeah,
it really is. I've had a lot of I made a lot of people mad. A lot of conservative friends.
But you're from Midwest, right?
I'm from South Dakota originally, and it is a very conservative state, and it's a lot of the people there that I grew up with and went to high school with and people that were friends are very conservative. They're very pro-Republican, pro-Trump, pro-everything he stands for. And everything they're not. So I've had to let some friends go. And I don't feel bad about it. I'm like,
I mean, 2020, you lost many friends.
Oh, yeah, I did. Yes. Yeah. And this last year, definitely. Yeah. And it's one of them things where it's like, I don't care. I want to be on the right side of history.
Yeah.
Like everybody, I think everybody should have a fair chance. Like, skin color, sex, sexual preferences. None of that shit matters because in the end, we all die.
Yeah.
We all have the same fate, So while we're here, let's just get along and try to let everybody be happy with whatever makes them happy, why they can,
Yeah. I try to be fair though. So I watched CNN and Fox News. And then okay, so I will be in the middle and try to, see, I will decide which, and then I was like, Fox News.
It's funny because I seen, I think it was a tweet from Trump, but it had something to do with ratings on Fox falling or something. And all I could think of it was like, it's because they don't report real news. They're trying to make news up, and people are coming to their senses and seeing that, they're making up and fabricating stories that they can then can't, they don't have backup and they don't have evidence. I mean, it's like that. I forget who the news anchor was, but the whole stuff with Hunter Biden and his laptop, and they were doing all these stories about all the stuff that's on it, and they're going to expose him and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, it mysteriously disappeared. And all the evidence just mysteriously disappeared. That's... People see that. They're starting to wake up. Okay, you guys are just fabricating shit because nobody's going to release a story without having it. Most news outlets are going to make sure they have decent sources. I mean, they're not always going to be perfect. They're going to end up having what they think is a good source, and turns out it's not. That's going to happen. You make errors. It's part of humanity. It's part of being human is making errors, but. Fox, like so many times more than not, deliberately puts out false information, false news, and makes stuff up. They're trying to report fiction versus facts.
So I was wondering why they were allowed to do that.
Because they're private. They're privately owned companies. They're not, and I mean, and I suppose if they call themselves an entertainment company.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah.
It's more because they're entertainment. They're not news. They're entertainment. So
then they shouldn't say Fox News. What I mean?
Well, or they could, but then what they should be doing is putting a disclaimer.
Yeah.
That not all of this, basically kind of like basically what they should be doing is being a mockumentary type news show. Like they should be making fun of news and like the Daily Show or something like that, where it's very obvious that the stuff, or like the Onion and things like that. It's very obvious that these aren't real stories, that kind of thing. Or put up a disclaimer that not everything might not necessarily be true. That's what they really should have to do.
Yeah.
But then they'll just cry, "Oh, we're being censored," which every conservative nowadays seems like that's their big thing. Free speech. Well, you can say whatever you want, but there's also consequences. I don't think you understand how free speech works.
Yeah. Just
Nobody's stopping you, but you do have to deal with the consequences after the fact.
So free speech and a lie are a different thing, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, because it's very dangerous to spread any kind of misinformation. You look at, even in school, if somebody starts spreading rumors, or at a job, or any place, spreading that kind of misinformation can be bad. People have lost jobs and stuff because of stupid rumors somebody started spreading, that were not even true at all, which definitely doesn't help, the greater good.
Yeah. And I feel, and I really feel, I don't know, should I say, if it's not appropriate, please edit.
Probably won't.
Because I was watching interview this in poor white people,
white supremacists
stuff. And then I was wondering, Trump is call them, rich white people call them trash, right? White trash people. And then why they were still looking up like, rich white people.
I know. I don't get it either.
Yeah.
You see that a lot.
Yeah.
It's like, it's almost like for some reason it's like they have it in their mentality that if they're supporting them, that they're going to be nice to them or something. Like they'll get something out of it. But in reality, these rich white people don't give a shit about anything other than making that bank account grow.
Yeah.
They're just trying to get their wallet thicker, and they don't care about, all these, like I said, these white trash, white supremacist type people.
I was like, they're talking shit about them, and then they don't realize how, they don't pay them much either, right? That's why they're so poor. And I was looking up and I was listening to them in the interview. I was like, maybe they should be ally with the immigrants,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And because, I can, we both speak bad English. And like, I was like, I don't know. I feel like also they were afraid that, because down the road, it's a fact that the white people will be minority down the road, right?
Yep.
And I think, a lot of white people these days, they're very nice and trying to get to know us and learn our culture and trying to be friends. And I really appreciate those people that I really, I really appreciate. I want to say, but people who are like white trash people, they were afraid to be minority.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, I honestly think they're afraid to be minority because they're afraid that they're going to get treated the way they've been treating minorities. They know that, which then tells you that they know internally that they know how they've treated other people throughout history is really shitty.
Yeah.
And they're afraid it's coming back at them.
Yeah. And even already treated badly, and in the bottom the white society already, and then when become my minority, and I think that's their fear is coming from, and they just want to feel. I think Trump did a really good job, make them feel being white and it has a power. Mm-hmm. So that's the only thing they were hanging on to, I think. And then, so instead of they want to feel better about themselves, that's why and then so that's why I feel like they were so afraid to treat it more less than now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was thinking hey, it's inevitable that they're gonna be someone said they're already minority, because in the term of being racist white person is, and then their class is already minority.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, so I hope they can see that and then to change, and then hopefully we can be friends. You know what I mean?
Well, fingers crossed that can happen. I mean, some people are just too ignorant, and because they choose not to. They don't, they're trying, like you said, they're trying to hold on to what little they got, and they don't want to let go of that. And that then makes it so they just won't change. Yeah. Which is really sad.
And because things are changing this year, I mean, I already see a lot of changes in LA before that, but it's like there are so many wonderful people there too, and then the people like here too, people everywhere, and people are so nice, and hopefully just to keep it going. But
that's one thing I'm always amazed by. You obviously it's out there. There's racism everywhere, and systematic racism and things like that. And it's hard to wrap my brain around, because obviously I don't experience it, but it's hard to wrap my brain around in the sense that then I go out places, like I'm at this festival. There's people here from all over the world, all over the country, all different colors and shades of skin, and we're all hanging out. Yeah. We're all buddies. We're all family. So then I think of it on a bigger scale. I'm like, why can't that happen just in general? Like when you go out in public, people are civil to each other, but then you get like on the internet and social media, and it's just a total shit show.
Yeah,
it's like it just blows my mind that we can't just act like this, you know?
Yeah.
It definitely would be better if they would. It's like, I think a lot of it too is people are just afraid to they're afraid of looking dumb and asking questions too. Like there's that arrogance of, well, I don't want to ask questions, and we, history teaches you that the more questions you ask, the more you learn, and then the more you can understand something that you're afraid of.
Yeah. I'm totally I don't get offended at all when people ask me, where you're from and how it's in Japan. It's like, I left Japan for a long time ago, so I don't really know much.
It's like if you're trying to get a lesson on Japan, I can tell you how it is, but when you get there, you're going to be sad because you're going to be about 20 years too late.
It's very late. Yeah, I'm just. It's so funny because every time I go back to Japan, my friends and my parents are like so amazed by how much, like, how Americanized I am, and I don't know anything about Japan, and my attitude, and my mom is like, oh, you're not Japanese anymore, and like, yeah.
Do you feel like you get a little bit of pushback or resistance from friends and family now to are maybe not pushback or that maybe those aren't the right words, but maybe a little bit discriminated against because they feel like you're more American than them.
Yeah, they're like, yes, because they're like, you're too opinionated. Yeah, and I don't know why. I can hear you from. I can hear you. You don't need to talk so loud. I'm like, I'm sorry.
That's funny. I don't know. I think I could definitely see where you could really get some good humor out of that, like growing up, with that, especially with the no filters thing, because that, at a level, it's a little sad, but also at many levels, it's very comical when people just don't filter themselves and say things like that.
So if I want to have real honesty, then I go to them. But sometimes I want to, my ego and don't want to hurt, and I definitely go to, my American friends. Hey, what do you think?
We need some reassurance.
Yes.
Well, that's when now we know your family's right. You're definitely American. Got to go get reassured, get reassurance from friends.
Yes.
Sensitive Sally.
Yeah.
fragile American.
Yes.
That's funny.
Like, what's right? What's right? And we don't have rights. In Japan, it's like, women, we don't have rights.
It's like, well, that's why you should come where I'm at.
Yeah.
Now, the bumming and bombing, a dreadful feeling you get when you bomb. How long does that typically last for you, and how does it affect you?
Oh, man. Before the quarantine, right? Wait. No, Zoom bomb too, right? Zoom when we started.
Well, yeah, but
Zoom.
I mean, I'm talking about.
Yeah, how long?
How long does it feel? It can be it's bombing in general, bombing on Zoom and bombing in real. It's all bombing.
Yes, it's
they all suck.
Yes, it's hard to, be okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I maybe, especially like when I was so excited about certain shows, like when I got paid to do the gig, it's like, oh, I get paid. You know what I mean? I'm doing stand up about 3.5 years. So compared to you, I'm more like it's super new, and getting paid, and I got paid for $100. So I was like so excited. I'm gonna do a good job, and I was like practicing, rehearsing, like and then nobody was listening. And then as soon as I say I'm Japanese, and everybody's like, oh, you know what I mean? Yeah. So That hurt maybe pretty long, maybe 3 days, maybe.
Yeah. Those are the ones that always hurt me the most too. When I know I'm getting paid because it's like after you go up, you want to do a good job, and then you don't, and then you have to go ask for money.
Yeah.
Because it's like, even though I did bad, we did have an agreement.
Yes.
So, and the quality of the performance was not part of the agreement. The agreement was a certain amount of time I had to do.
Yeah.
Which is always like I said, it's always weird asking for money after a bad set. How do you analyze your sets to try to figure out, like, if you have a joke that didn't work or a set that went bad? What do you try to look for? I mean, obviously, you can tell. You've talked about the cultural differences and not, growing up here, so you don't know all the references, and so it's harder to write to appeal an American audience. But so that's obviously a good observation. But what other things do you try to do?
I tried to tape every set, and unfortunately, I couldn't tape the bomb, the one I. But usually trying to record and see myself how I do it, and I tends to add words in between jokes. So
I do that too.
Yeah?
Like just words that aren't important.
Exactly. Yeah.
I noticed that.
Yeah. Like or like.
Yeah, just something like I'll do a punchline. And then maybe a tag, and then I'll almost like I'm doing commentary on the joke.
Yeah.
And I actually did that at I did a dry bar special, and I noticed that happened where I kept saying stuff that didn't really help the joke.
Yeah.
Didn't really affect it, but it also didn't help it. And, it was just no point.
Yeah.
It had no effect whatsoever. It did not need to be there.
Yeah. So I catch that and watching myself,
And then you try. So does that make it so then you're more focused on making sure that doesn't happen in the future? You can try to cut that out.
Yeah. Also, I repeat same sentence sometimes because, I think maybe I'm just thinking too much, and
Yeah,
so.
that's the overthinking that really gets people. That happens a lot.
Yeah. So
I feel like I'm one of them people too, where it's like I'm really good at overthinking things.
Yeah.
It's like I get so in my head, I want to do good or whatever, and then I overthink it, and then it backfires.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, what a bummer! What a bummer! Man. So, do you have any pre-show rituals or traditions? Do you have like a pre-show tradition or a ritual, something that you have to do before you perform?
Oh.
Do you listen to music or pray or meditate or whatever, that kind of thing?
I started, my boyfriend always make fun of me because I learned this little weird exercise from this spiritual lady. And I learned meditation from a white lady and and all the spiritual thing from white ladies. So
is that why he makes fun of you?
Yeah.
For that?
It's like, hey, meditation didn't come. I thought they were
like,
from Asia.
Isn't that part of your culture?
You don't know Zen?
Do you have a joke about that?
I should, huh?
You do. That's a really funny. That's funny. Just the idea of that.
Yeah.
You've learned everything you know about meditation and spiritual type stuff like that from a white person. When you come from a culture that's about meditation and that kind of thing. That's really funny.
Yeah. And then this white lady teacher convinced me to buy crystals. So definitely and this white lady was teaching me energy healing, and so you tap body parts, and how to breathe and stuff. A little exercise that before I go to stage.
Yep.
I wish I can show it to you.
But does that help you? Do you feel like it helps you get you ready to perform?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a more like brainwashed myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's probably not doing anything physically, but mentally. It's making you think it is, and so therefore you feel better.
Yeah,
definitely see that.
Yeah.
What was your favorite show or gig you've done so far?
Favorite gig?
Yeah, what's your favorite gig?
My favorite gig. What was my favorite gig? Wow. Wait. Pause.
Like, I don't have one. I don't like this. I don't like comedy. Like, I don't know.
Okay. I had such a funny experience. My friend, and he's here too, and Henry Garcia. He has a monthly show, live show, and I did it in September, and right before I went up to the stage, somebody offered me a sweet, the little tiny sweet.
Oh, like a candy or something?
Yeah, like a Rice Krispie thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then it was a sample, so I ate it, and then half an hour later, like, I got high.
They gave you an edible.
Yeah, I didn't know.
You were just like, oh
yeah,
that's nice. Yeah.
And I was like, telling host, I can't do this. I'm too high. I don't remember anything.
Oh, wow.
And then he's like, just go up and just say something. And like, what? So I went up so high because I'm not used to in anything, and weed isn't not my thing. It was just, I was like, first thing I did was like, I am so sorry. I'm so high. But I ended up, I had one of the best show ever because I was just not worrying about anything. And I was I promise I wrote jokes. I have jokes. See, I have a cheating sheet. Like, I have jokes, but I don't remember anything.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Maybe you have a new pre-show ritual.
Yeah.
Huh?
I should eat. My friend who saw it, you know what? You should eat edible
More
before.
often.
Yeah, every time before you go to.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, where can people find you online?
Online, you can find me on iComedian.com, comedian.com, and it goes to my TikTok too. And yeah, I'm right now I'm building my website. So for now, the domain name goes to
you
TikTok.
got it pointing to TikTok.
TikTok,
okay,
yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
All right. Any other social media?
Instagram and Yoshihara3.
Okay.
And TikTok is my name, Yoshihara. Yeah. So
perfect. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
The Art of Bombing is a Blitzed Entertainment production. Hosted and produced by Dan Bublitz Jr., The Art of Bombing intro music was written and performed by John Holt. All other music used in this podcast was under the Creative Commons license. If you would like to help The Art of Bombing, you can do so by subscribing, rating, and reviewing our show on whatever podcast application you use to listen to The Art of Bombing. For previous episodes, blogs, and more, visit artofbombingpod.com. Have a great week. And remember, stay safe so you can live to love.